No.
Ah, hello.
I'm here.
How do I sound?
You sound good.
Oh, good. I feel peppy after my 5 lattes. I feel like Kramer.
Am I sounding okay?
Oh, you sound like $1,000,000.
Don't be weird.
Do you wanna see that movie? Do you wanna see that movie? Do you wanna see that movie?
Welcome to Hey, did you ever see that movie? I'm your host, Des. And as always, I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Lynn.
The only good bug is a dead bug.
And back by popular demand, the podcaster with perfect punctuation, Michelle.
Hello, everyone.
Today, we will be discussing the 1997 sci-fi movie Starship Troopers, directed by Paul Verhoeven, written by Edward Meyer, starring Casper Van Dien, Denise Richards, and young Neil Patrick Harris, among many others. This is based on the novel Starship Troopers, written by Robert Heinlein. And as always, this podcast will be filled with spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, go watch it, come back, and then listen to the podcast. Before we get into it, though, let's run the trailer.
In every age, there is a cause worth fighting for. But in the future, the greatest threat to our survival will not be man at all.
Hey, kid, what's going on? It's war! We're going to war!
Now the youth of tomorrow must travel across the stars to defend our world.
We are a generation commanded by fate to defend humankind.
Everyone fights, no one quits.
We are going in with first wave. You smash the entire area. You kill anything that has more than 2 legs. You get me? We get you, sir!
But they will face an enemy more devastating than any ever imagined.
Here it comes!
Incoming!
Mayday, this is Roughneck 2-0.
We're under attack, sir. We need retrieval now.
Someone made a damn mistake.
The bugs laid a trap for us, didn't they?
Prepare for battle and journey to the front lines of the next frontier.
Kill them all!
Starship Troopers.
All right, Lynn, do you want to give us a short synopsis?
Oh, it's very short. The synopsis for this movie is humans fighting bugs in space.
Got it. All right. So before we get started, let's talk about a couple of fun little factaroos that I got. This movie cost $105 million to make. Is that right?
I wouldn't know. Did you look it up?
I did look it up, and that is that's just a little bit more than the movie we did last week, which was True Lies, which at the time was the highest price tag ever for a movie at $100 million. So this had a pretty big budget, and honestly, I didn't really see the budget. It didn't look like $105 million to me. It was a good looking movie, but I did see.
Well, you have to think that CG, back then, that was.
Yes.
Way harder to do than it is these days.
Yes, and a lot of the money in True Lies was actually spent on giving us real life shots. So there you go. We're getting real Harriers and whatnot.
Yeah.
It looked like it opened up in Canada and the USA at 22 million on the opening weekend, and the gross was 54 million, and worldwide gross was 121 million. So I don't know if this was considered a flop or not. Do you guys have any?
Actually, yeah. I it was considered that when it came out in the theaters that it wasn't, it didn't do that well,
Right.
but it quickly became a cult type movie, right? That had a cult following. So when it came out on, DVD, VHS or whatever, everybody was buying all of that stuff. So I think they kind of made their money back kind of on that stuff. But yeah, I think it was just too I heard a comment actually from Paul Verhoeven himself, and he said that with a name like Starship Troopers, a lot of people thought it was like Star Wars.
Right.
And,
Right.
no, right?
Right.
Very different. But I wonder if the budget actually came from a lot of the people, the extras that they had, because they have a lot of people in this movie, right? They have a whole military, and it looks very, they're not CG people. Like
Yeah.
those are real people, right? So I wonder if that was where a lot of it went as well, even if we didn't see like the effects being that awesome, But I don't know. It worked for the movie that it was, I thought.
Did either of you guys happen to notice what it opened up against?
I did not.
Didn't either, no.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I can't remember. I can't remember that far back.
Yeah, I was having a good time in 1997. So, oh god. All right. That's pretty much all I have. I just wanted to that, and maybe one more comment that I thought was kind of funny was that this is supposed to be high school kids, and they all look like they were in their late 50s. So
yeah. And another interesting thing about it is the setting is Buenos Aires, and I thought again very fascinating. Everybody has got Hispanic names, being that they're from there, and like everybody's white, so
Like dashingly white.
it's just really funny.
Oh.
I mean, Casper Van Dien is literally German. Like,
Yeah, yes,
yeah,
he is.
Doogie Howser, the ultimate
Yes.
in
Yes.
Spanish men.
That's right.
The ultimate Spanish actor, Doogie Howser. No.
oh my Lord. And
All
I
right.
think, if I'm not mistaken, that Johnny Rico in the book was Filipino.
Was he?
Yeah, I saw
forget.
that and I was like, what? Like, but hey, great. I mean, I kind of wish that it had made it to the movie.
Yeah,
not that it was hard to look at Casper Van Dien for 2 hours, but
Yeah, that jaw is amazing. Yeah, Casper Van Dien did not again look like the heavy Spanish actor, but
No.
I was fine. I was fine with it. They
He's
were all
a
very
young Tom
good-looking
Brady.
people. Yeah, Tom Brady in space killing bugs.
and when it came out, of course, I had just graduated high school at the time, and it's like the interesting thing for me before we go into like the whole part of this movie is that watching it now versus like my young self, like you have completely different lenses for this, right?
Yeah.
And all the stuff that you might have even looked at when you were younger is totally different now. Like I'm like, whoa, it's a different movie for me now.
Yes.
I mean, I still love it, obviously, but completely different. You notice so many things. Like I didn't think about like Nazis fighting bugs in space,
Right.
and that's kind of what it was sort of looking like,
Yeah. Especially with those uniforms. I mean, they literally made their uniforms look like
Yes.
Nazi SS.
on purpose. Yeah, on
Mhm.
purpose.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, let's get on before we start talking about Nazis for I don't know how long it is. Nazis in space.
Nazis in space.
Like pigs in space.
Did either of you know what the working name was for this movie before they did Starship, or was it always going to be Starship?
Oh, I did not know
It
that.
had a
It
another
had a
name.
crazy name, right?
It was something like Attack on Bugs or something.
Attack on Planet 9 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I forget what
okay.
it was, but it was something good like that.
Well, I'm glad they went with Starship Troopers.
Yeah, I mean, well, honestly, like if you use the weird name, it's almost better because it's obviously ridiculous. Whereas, Bug Hunt at Outpost 9. That's what it was
Okay,
called.
I knew there was a niner in there somewhere.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yep. So, like initially, if you had used that, it might have been obvious right off the bat that this was satire. And that was one of the problems that they had with this movie is that people didn't realize it was satire. Like there were scenes that I can't believe people didn't understand it was satire.
This
Like-
is satire? All right, bring us into this movie, Satire.
All right, here we go. So our movie opens up with FedNet, which is very, very much like the storytelling trick that Paul Verhoeven used in RoboCop, which is like a fake newscast broadcast. Super effective in RoboCop, and I think it works the same here. So here it is showing a call to arms for the citizens of Earth to do your part to fight the bugs. And the alien life form known as arachnids, derivatively called bugs, are launching meteors at Earth. Humans have decided to attack the home planets of the bugs called Klendathu in an attempt to stop them from attacking. We're taken to a live report from Klendathu where a reporter is explaining what he's seeing right before being grabbed by a bug and tearing in two, like just you're done. The cameraman and several troopers also make the same fate. You don't know who these people are yet, but you're going to meet them in the movie because we're going to back up. So like I said, this is a great storytelling trick that Paul Verhoeven seems to love. I don't remember if he does this in Total Recall as well, but this is one of his jams. And I think it's just as effective in this as it was in RoboCop. Des, do you agree?
I loved it. And, it felt like, wartime propaganda film. You're getting a lot of callbacks to, the Nazi war. And it felt like propaganda film. And I loved it. Like you said, you get a lot of information out of these. And it was a lot of fun. And it definitely reminded me of RoboCop, which was fine because, as we know, I loved it.
Yeah, if you guys don't know, go to the RoboCop episode.
Yeah, yes, refer to the RoboCop episode. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome. So we were talking about the title real quick. That actually was the original title of the book that this movie came from.
Yes,
Bug Hunt on Planet 9 or Outpost 9?
Oh, no, Starship Troopers.
Oh,
Starship
okay.
Troopers, yeah. That's the actual name of the book. So I think
Yes.
it's interesting that they tried to deviate from it, and
Well, I
have that
think
for that.
initially Meyer was just kind of working on a script that was like kind of bug killy, and Verhoeven had read this book. Well, he didn't read the book. Let's just put that out there right now. He got like a couple chapters in and was like, I can't read this. And he made other people finish it for him and tell him what it was about. And so I think he knew that Meyer was working on this script and said, hey, there's this. Why don't we do this? And just take your ideas and kind of mash them all together. So I think that's how it ended up happening.
That is
Fascinating challenge that the book, to like adapt a movie from a book that was written in 1959.
I know, right?
So having you think about the political climate in 1959 and how this book was written with all of that in mind, and then you have to bring it to the 90s.
Right.
Where, so I think a lot of that played into how he wrote it as well and how he made it satire.
Right.
Because he's like, dude, I cannot actually write or make a movie out of this book.
That's not funny. Because if you make it serious, it's going to be stupid.
It's going to be awful because it was way more fascist. The book was way more fascist.
It did maintain some of that flavor though from 1959.
Oh yeah. I mean,
but they were trying to poke fun of it, or at least that's what their attempt was.
Yeah. I think he excels at sort of this social commentary with his dystopian movies that he makes, because you look at RoboCop, Total Recall, and Starship Troopers, and they all have that vibe,
that
flavor.
Oh,
here's a future that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But we can laugh at it because there's 3 boobs in one movie. There's anyway. I'll get to that of name.
There's 2 flat boobs in this movie.
Oh my Lord. All right. So the next thing that we go to is we're flashing back to a year earlier. So we're actually going to get the story here. Basically, what you see in that beginning is the future and almost the end of the movie. So we're returned back to a classroom and we meet Johnny Rico, played by Casper Van Dien. So this is a face that's actually familiar if you're being, focused on the newscast. He does show up in that newscast. But now they're in Buenos Aires, back on Earth, and they're in the high school. He's caught doodling by his one-armed teacher, Mr. Radchek, played by Michael Ironsides. There's a discussion of civic duties during which Rico sends the doodle to his girlfriend, Carmen Ibanez, played by Denise Richards. You get the idea here that he likes her a little bit more than she likes him.
Yeah.
you know? And there's a kind of an interesting conversation between the students and the teacher regarding naked force and violence. And it's kind of an interesting conversation, especially to be having like in a high school, but I suppose they kind of are in wartime at this point. So, I mean, they haven't quite gone fully to war yet, but they're heading there.
Yeah, and that, like, the lines that he says fully sets up the political climate of this movie. Because he starts out by saying, we explored the failure of democracy and social scientists brought our world to the brink of chaos. And then, the army took control and now everything's great. And it's just like, well, yeah, and then they talk about voting and, it's like just that tiny little part makes you think, all right, yeah, this is not our world at all,
Right.
as we know it.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you're voting, you're either a citizen or you're what's the difference? The citizen or they keep calling a civilian or a citizen. And if you're a citizen, you've served and you can vote. And if you're a civilian, you've not, and you can't vote.
Exactly.
It's also easier to have children if you're a citizen.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, she says, it's easier to get on the list and get approved to have children. That was one of the reasons that.
That girl in the shower scene.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. You're right. Interesting. So yeah, clearly, like they're really trying to force people's hands to serve, and kind of making it that like. It's interesting also that, if you want to vote, you had to have served, which means you're military, which means only the military is voting. So that's a conflict of interest,
It's also interesting that they're outnumbered by these bugs and they're trying to control the population. I'd be green lighting babies left and right at this moment.
Plus, what I thought was interesting too is like in the beginning, I almost felt like, were the bugs actually a threat? Or because you never actually saw, they said, we had this attack from Clan Dathu, but you don't actually know. They just have this computer graphic that looks like an attack. Like, it's almost like, did they set that up so they could make the military even more powerful and go fight?
Well, it's possible.
Right?
I think I saw at one point that they were saying that basically humanity kind of stumbled across the bugs and the bugs reacted, negatively because we're in their space. So they look at us as an invader, which I don't, if bugs just appeared on our planet, we'd react violently too. So they're doing what's in their nature.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of the way we stumble upon oil fields and decide to start wars.
Or stumble upon quote unquote new lands that people actually are already living on and just take them over and start wars. So I mean, it's
classic war scenario to make money and gain stuff.
Yeah. I mean, kind of, right? So anyway, Carmen and Johnny go to check their math scores, and this is kind of hinging on where they're going to go from after school, whether they're going to go on to serve, if they're going to go to a school. And Carmen's got a 97% and Johnny's got a 35%. So that's clearly not his strong suit. She's got her sights set on being a pilot. But in the next scene, she's unable to even keep her breakfast down when she and Johnny are dissecting a bug. So it calls into question whether she can handle it or not. And notable mention to the teacher, the blind teacher in the scene, that it's Rue McClanahan, one of our Golden Girls. And I found that was an interesting casting choice, but I loved it.
Oh, yeah. It's great with the makeup. She's all freaking burnt up. Looks like she'd seen some action.
Yeah. And she says, arachnids are far more advanced than humans are, at least when when it's talking about their drive for competitive survival. And I was like, that's interesting and also foreshadowing.
Yeah. They're more primal for sure.
And then that whole scene, first of all, it made me remember when I was in anatomy class in high school dissecting fetal pigs.
Oh, no.
That's what I had to do. That's what we had to do. But this is fetal bugs, I guess.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would have thrown up too. Carmen, I'm with you, girl. He's like pulling out all those innards, and I mean, that was good. Whoever designed those innards.
Oh yeah, it looks fantastic.
Yeah, it looks real. And she was throwing up squash bananas.
Oh, nice.
So that was a little the little thing I saw that scene, and I mean, I was like, how else could she? So I guess that's a history of using food as throw up in movies, because in The Exorcist, it was pea soup, and this is squash bananas.
So that was the RoboCop flavored baby food she was throwing
Yeah,
up.
probably,
Okay.
yes. Yum. They had some left from filming the
Well,
RoboCop.
as we both know, we would love to eat some baby food. So,
Oh, yeah.
Denise,
Yeah,
Denise
we have
dispenser.
a creepy baby food fetish we've got here. But they're like, yum, baby food.
Yeah,
Anyway.
Oh my Lord. So our next scene, Johnny visits with his friend Carl, played by Neil Patrick Harris, Doogie Howser himself. And he's trying to train Johnny to do his psychic abilities. So Carl has some psychic ability, and he's trying to speak to Johnny without speaking, and they're trying to guess cards, and Johnny's pretty shit at it, honestly. Carl speaks to his ferret, tells him to go play some to go up his mom's leg and look for a grub that's not really there. So, clearly Carl is able to speak to at least to simpler animals, although you would think if he can speak to simpler animals, he probably could talk to Johnny too. But
yeah, you think he'd be coming through loud and clear.
But Michelle, this could be a handy ability.
It could definitely be a handy ability. And he does admit, because Johnny asks him, oh, can you do this with humans? And he's like, not yet. You know? But he definitely is doing this animal thing. But it's interesting that he can give him that suggestion even.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just like an order. It's like he even like made him think there was going to be a grub there.
Yeah.
Which I was like, ooh, okay. And it's neat that there's like psychic stuff in this, which I'm like, oh, like in the future, there are some people that end up with psychic abilities.
Yeah.
And they are the highest ranking officials,
Yeah, because they can either plant suggestions or hear thoughts. So yeah, you got to think they want them in intelligence.
Yeah, and so here's you look at that. So even when I was in high school, and you see them having you take these exams in high school, and they start scoring you, I would have been Carmen. So, and then you think the Marines, unfortunately, they're the front line guys, and they basically need them for, as they're talked about in the movie, as cannon fodder, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where our Johnny ends up going. But
yeah, Johnny Rico probably he had an opportunity to stay home. His parents obviously wanted him to stay. I'm not jumping ahead, but he came from money, and you really he doesn't come off as a rich kid in the beginning of this movie. I more thought of him as, kind of a roughneck kid from the streets was more the vibe he was giving off to me. So I thought that was kind of cool that, they threw a curve at you a little bit. When you find out that he's rich and you see him in the suit, you're like, oh, I can see that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think all of them are, at least in this group here, they're all pretty pretty well off. Yeah.
I mean, it seems like Buenos Aires is a beautiful, well-to-do area to live. And I'm not trying to say that they're probably in this futuristic Buenos Aires aren't rough areas, but it really looks like it's this tropical paradise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So Johnny's showing off his physical ability in a game of arena ball. And here's the first time we see Xander Barkalow, played by Patrick Muldoon. So despite being the hero of the game, Johnny notices Carmen is busy talking to Xander instead of cheering for him. He tells Carmen he's going to the Fleet Academy in the morning, and she tells him that she's trying to get there too. Johnny manages to win the game and keep his girl for now, but this is foreshadowing.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts on this scene that are going to play out over and over throughout the movie. This is where we're going to see that Diz is really the smartest of all of them when it comes to strategy and, leading a platoon or a group or a team. She's the quarterback. She's coming up with the plan. Johnny Rico's going to get the high fives for winning the game, but it's really Diz that wins the game. And, and she's going to win a few more games throughout this movie, and she's never going to get her, she's never going to get her, that boy for it. And, throughout this movie, Rico's going to continue advancing off of Diz's good leadership.
Yeah, honestly, I really feel like she is the unsung hero of the entire movie.
Yeah, I didn't actually think about that, because I think when I was watching the football scene, they did such a good job of minimizing her that you weren't really focused on her. But yeah, like what you said there. Okay, I didn't even know she was the quarterback. Like I really was not. I'm like, oh, what's going on with this drama between the three of them? Like it kind of just makes you go that way. At least my attention went.
Yeah, they're gonna play this scene out almost exactly again in boot camp, and
yeah.
So there, but that was what
she's
I was saying.
calling. Like Des said, she's calling the play. She's the one holding everybody together. She says, "Hey, Rico, pay attention." Like she's like, "Eyes on me. Let's do this thing." Like so. Yeah, she's actually the leader. It's just everybody is just ignoring that.
But the problem with the character arc in this is that Verhoeven had I shouldn't say Verhoeven, the writer, had a opportunity for her character to grow in the eyes of everybody in the movie, but it never did. And like he went out of his way to write these scenes in where, she would step up and she would have the plan and, the plan would come through and everyone would succeed. But, it's falling on deaf ears and on blind eyes, like there's going to be a scene later in the movie that I won't really talk about now where, Johnny really could have, that whole arc could have happened where he sees her in a different way and says, oh, you're the person, but he doesn't. And, I think it was a missed opportunity in the character arc of Diz.
Yeah, she's really, honestly, she was my favorite character.
Yeah.
In the movie. And of course, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I guess they were wondering how she eventually ends up and if it was worth developing her as a character. Don't know.
Right.
But yeah, so let's continue before we get further on.
Yeah, we will revisit the subject of Diz and what they did with her character. Yeah. So now we see Johnny dressed up for the big dance. His father confronts him and he says, I'm interested in going in to serve with the fleet. And his father's like, I forbid it. You're not doing that. You're going to Harvard. Offers him a trip to Zegama Beach. You can go see the galaxy that way. You don't have to be in service. And it's emotional blackmail. But you can also see that Johnny's parents have a point. People are dying. Michelle, would you rather join the service or go on a vacation to Zegama Beach?
Zegama Beach, 100%. But he is following. See, the thing is, he's not even following his actual what he wants. He's following a girl, right?
100%.
Yeah. So, the wrong girl.
Yes,
the wrong girl.
But the interesting thing to me is, you're going to Harvard. I'm like, are they going to pay them to let him in because he clearly has bad grades?
Right.
I was thinking that the whole time. I'm like, has Harvard gone down in
He was not Harvard material. He was not Harvard material.
Maybe football. Maybe he got a football scholarship.
Maybe Northeastern. Maybe.
BU.
No, what's the college we pass on the way to the gym?
Wheaton College.
Yeah, he was Wheaton. He was Wheaton College.
Wheaton College is a liberal arts college, and it's very well respected. Knock it off.
Yeah, okay, yeah. No disrespect to the Wheaton alumni. I don't think they have a football team, though.
No, they don't. It's a liberal arts college.
Okay.
So now we're at the dance, and little side note, the song that's playing is actually a cover of a David Bowie song, which I read, and I was like, oh, because I didn't recognize it at all because it's so different, but it's a David Bowie song. So at the dance, Dizzy, played by Dina Meyer, grabs Johnny and takes him out on the dance floor. It's obvious she's really into Johnny and he's just completely blind for Carmen, which, this is tale as old as time. It happens all the time. Yep. Johnny then, breaks off, goes to talk to Mr. Radcheck for a little bit. And he tells him that the only freedom he really has is the freedom to make up his own mind. Which, I think that Mr. Radcheck's like, this dude's going to go into the service to follow this girl. Like, he's not dumb. He's been watching him in class, sending her little notes and stuff. Like, I have a feeling that he knew that he was going to sign up just to follow her because she's been very clear about what she wants to do. But anyways, Johnny ignores his father and enrolls for the federal service the next morning with Carmen and his other friend, Carl. Carl gets into games and intelligence. Rico gets into mobile infantry, and Carmen gets into the pilot program. So Des, mobile infantry makes that desk officer the man he is today, missing both his legs and a hand. Not really a good look.
Yeah, I wrote that down. I said, this, when he says, the mobile infantry made me the man I am today, Rico looks down and was like, oh, maybe I made a mistake here.
Yeah, great scene, because he even rolls back a little.
Yeah.
So you see the full glory of what he's been made into.
And that's real. That actor had lost both of his legs in a car accident.
He was ready for the RoboCop program.
Yeah, he was. To be fair, most people in this movie end up being ready for the RoboCop program.
They were ready to start a whole new force in Robo City.
That's right.
Oh, boy.
Oh, my God. So Carmen, Johnny, and Carl all make a vow to always remain friends, no matter where they may be, despite the fact that they may never see one another again. Johnny's parents disown him, but he persists in his desire to impress Carmen. When he says he loves her, she doesn't return the sentiment until he presses her to do so. So, Michelle, it's kind of obvious he's followed her into the service. It wasn't really because he wanted to do this for himself. And she already has her mind and thoughts a million miles away.
Yeah, and he's like, just try it. Just try saying it.
Try it on for
I'm
size.
like, oh, poor dude. Like,
so
sad. Yeah, it's so sad. And she's like, I love you, and just goes, like, whatever. Like, here's a courtesy. I love you.
Oh, yeah.
And of course she's actually following her ambition. She does not have it's not like she's hoping to see Xander over there. Or anything
no. She's following her own dream. She's not following a dude.
And
so I can't blame her.
It's never really addressed if they ever hook up. I had the impression that they never did actually get fully romantic.
Oh, her and Xander, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that too. I thought that it could have got there, it was flirting on there, but they were both into their careers. And
yes,
they were good friends. I think they turned out being good friends, but
yeah.
I
felt like they wanted to have a romantic relationship. The fire was there for sure, but they were both such career-oriented people that they knew that it would get in the way of them being the best team, which is what they were. So
they were good. They were good.
And I had no problem with her either in the way she treated Johnny, because, he was a puppy dog, head over heels. And, she had made it so clear that it was a high school thing, and she was ready to go on with her adult life and be a career pilot. And he couldn't hear it and he couldn't see it. And it was obvious for everybody to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know even, they didn't really say how committed they were before. It's not like she said, someday I'm going to marry you, or at some point, right? I think, like you said, that it was like a high school sweet thing, and who knows how far the relationship really went. And obviously, Rico had his, that was his girl. He was set on it, but yeah.
And
I don't think she felt the same way at all.
Yeah.
No, and that was the first time she'd ever said, I love you. Obviously, it wasn't even one of those hot and heavy high school relationships where you're like, I love you, and you'll be forever, right? It's like, yeah, I'm 17. It's going to be forever. Okay.
Oh, Lord. So we're treated to another fake broadcast here. And if people haven't caught on that this is a satire yet, this broadcast
is satire?
Okay. If you haven't caught on yet, soldiers letting their kids play with their guns probably should tip you off. It's like these kids are pulling on these gigantic heavy guns, and it's it literally gave me anxiety just watching it in a stupid movie.
Loved it.
There's a man who's found guilty whose execution will be broadcast live at 6. So
yay.
Now, this is something that I think I would like to see now, because there are just no consequences for people just going out and just being fucking horrible people. Let's get some consequences. Let's do some public executions while we're eating dinner. And maybe people think twice before they go out and just start, doing horrible things to people for no reason.
I mean, the death penalty thing is such a loaded question. I don't want to get into it, but I mean, if there were a little bit more consequences and you didn't become famous for doing bad things, maybe it would be a little less romanticized.
Maybe not public executions, but how about public floggings?
Floggings. I would like the old thing like the Vikings do, where they walk the guy down this walk of shame and everybody throws rotten food at him.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's actually a great idea.
Yeah.
All right. I'm down. Yeah. Let's do it.
I'm down with that.
6 o'clock CNN, the walk of shame.
Yeah. Hey, people would watch that shit.
I would watch it.
Oh my God. So also in this broadcast, we see a commercial for how to get tested to be a psychic, whether you're psychic or not. And also we see a captured arachnid that's feeding on a cow, along with showing how vicious their attack is on a colony. So they're really kind of giving you a couple of little tidbits to get us to the next, plot point, but, giving you some insight as to what's going on.
I laughed out loud at that scene where they put the sensor bar over the cow. Yeah. I literally laughed out loud. I thought that was great. It was just, for some reason, it just hit me just the right way. I was like, oh yeah, that's great.
So at a training facility, Rico and his fellow recruits are lining up to meet their sergeant, Sergeant Zim, played by Clancy Brown from the Highlander. Yay!
Highlander from Bad Boys.
Oh, well, okay, that too. But I think of him as he's the Kurgan. He's amazing.
He is
it's
amazing.
A Shawshank Redemption. Dude plays a cop in every movie, like a cop military guy. Like that's his thing.
Yeah.
Well, except for Highlander, he's a very, very bad man in Highlander.
Yes.
And in Bad Boys, he's a bad boy.
He's a bad boy.
Oh Lord. Oh my God. So he's got little time for anybody's wisecracks or laziness. He sends one recruit to do laps. I think it's Kitten. And he breaks another one's arm, like legitimately compound fractures another dude's arm with like the bone sticking out. They don't show you the bone, but you see the bump under the sweatshirt and it's gross.
Yeah.
So suddenly,
chokes out Diz.
Yeah. Well, Dizzy appears suddenly. She's been transferred in from another squadron at her own request, and it's obvious she came to follow Rico. But she gives the old, "Oh, well, I heard this was the best squadron," and he says, "Well, why should I let you into the best squadron?" So squadron, they get into a little fist fight, and he ends up choking her out. I mean, after
she puts up a pretty good showing that none of the other male recruits could do.
Yeah, no, she got a couple hits in, and so you could see the surprise on his face that she got a couple hits in, whereas the other kid, he flipped him over and broke his arm in the blink of an eye. So, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's why he spared her any major injury. He just choked her out because I think he respected that shot.
Yes.
Let me say that Gary Busey's son is in this.
Yes, Jake.
And it took me 2 seconds to be like, shit, was this so old that's Gary Busey? Like, this is and I had to look it up. I was like, oh, no, it's his kid.
Yeah, I recognize him immediately. I recognize him immediately as Gary Busey's son, and I love the character of Ace. He was one of my favorites in this. He had a ton of heart. It was a great character.
Yeah, the ensemble was good actually. Like all his little group of friends.
Yeah,
very, very well done. Like very family. I liked it.
It's what made the movie good for me. The characters, all had a lot of heart. They all. I loved them all. I loved every character in this movie.
Yeah, they actually really did even though everyone looks like they're 35 and they're smoking Pall Malls, they really did a great job with the casting. Like the people are acting their asses off, considering this is kind of a silly, sci-fi movie. They're really doing a great job with it.
I felt like this movie would have been better served if they were graduating from college and they were deciding whether they're going to go on to their careers or if they were going to go fight for, the world.
Well, it would have made their ages more believable.
Yeah. It would have made the whole thing more believable. They didn't have to be high school kids. It just didn't work. I mean, first of all, that football game, that looked like a professional football game. If it was college, you're on the brink and they spend big money on their sports. And the whole thing just would have worked better if it was college for me. But that's just nitpicking. But it was obvious. It was an obvious, quick change they could have made to the script that would have made it more believable.
Yeah. Yeah. So we see a little chow line with some grumbling about Sergeant Jim. Ace Levy, played by Jake Busey, he kind of is, he's kind of braggadocious. He kind of gets in there and, people are telling him to get in the back of the line because he's trying to cut. So, you get treated a little bit to him and, how he thinks he's, the cat's pajamas. But he is basically, everyone tells him to go to the back of the line and he finally does.
Yeah, because he's not a real badass. He's actually just a big, goofy, fun guy. And, and you start seeing that a lot of these moves he's making are not really malicious. He's just a loud guy, just a big character, a big personality. And I loved him. I thought he was great.
Yeah.
And he plays the violin.
Yes, he
Yes.
does. Cool.
Yes, very well.
Yeah, cool green see-through spacey violin.
So real quick, speaking of him, I think this was also part of the introduction to Clancy scene. Isn't that where he also tells him to put his hand up there? And
Yeah.
No,
Well,
that's later. That's
is that
later.
later?
It is.
Yeah,
I
it's
thought I
later.
was reading that part. Oh, my bad.
It is later. So oh wait, no, it must be right about here because I have it written down that is Ace Levy just stupid, or that he'd push that man's buttons again so he'd get a knife through her hand. So it must have happened just about there.
Yeah, but if your enemy can't, push a button, then he puts the knife through his hand. And I loved the character of the drill sergeant too. It was
Clancy.
Yeah, Clancy played it so good, and it was such a great character. And he's going to give you a couple lines in this that lets you know that he's a loose cannon, and he's seen his flogging, and he's been in trouble several times in his military experience.
Yeah, and this is also where we're treated to the co-ed shower scene, like we mentioned when we were discussing RoboCop. Go back and listen to RoboCop.
Correct.
And,
do you want to know more?
Yeah.
So we're treated to several scenes of the training camp. That shower scene, there's that conversation about if you want to have kids, and other people, like one of them said they wanted to go into politics, and this was the quickest way to go into politics, because obviously if you can't vote, you can't get into politics. So
right.
Interesting that it just kind of breaks down like how you need to serve if you want to take part in, the government to a certain degree, Yeah,
and in case you didn't listen to that podcast, in this scene, the actors I'm feeling uncomfortable about having to do the co-ed scene all naked. And Verhoeven was saying, what's the big deal about doing this? It's just, it's just nudity. And he said, I'll take off all my clothes and I'll shoot the scene naked with you. And he did. So bravo to Verhoeven.
Yeah, I actually think that Casper Van Dien, when he took all his, because it was Dina Meyer that said, "Hey, Paul, if it's no big deal, why don't you do it too?" So Verhoeven just starts pulling his pants off.
Yes, he did.
And Vacano, who was the cinematographer, he also got naked.
Yeah.
And he had been raised in a nudity camp, so to him it was no big deal. So Casper Van Dien, I guess, turns around and sees them naked and is like, "Oh God, Dina, why did you tell them to do that?"
That's great.
Oh my God. So that was funny. That gave me a good giggle. So at this point, Rico sends a video letter to Carmen telling her what's his life is like in the infantry. Though she seems happy to see him, she's happier still when she's told it's time to fly up to orbit by another pilot cadet played by a very young Amy Smart.
Yep.
Carmen arrives on the flight deck of the new ship, sits in the chair she's directed to, and learns that she'll be trained by none other than Xander Barkalow. And I made a note. I know he's supposed to be a young man here, but he looks 45.
Yeah, and
can't let it go.
This movie had a lot. And I hate, because this isn't a thing. Like, I'm not like, one of these guys out there, fighting the cause for women. But this movie did have a lot of misogyny in it. I mean, a lot, where they just downplayed these strong women and didn't let their characters grow. And every stupid guy was put in a position of power where they didn't deserve it, and they were dropping the ball. And, we get a line here that I just thought was stupid, "Oh, when I heard there was a wild girl, a wild recruit, and, she's a little wild on the stick." She's a little wild on the stick, but a natural. I'm like, oh, give me a break. Give me a break. So gay.
Yeah.
And,
1997.
And he's already made it up to, assistant instructor. And, she's coming in as his little puppy to play with. "Oh, little puppy, take the stick." And how did he get it? I mean, what were they? Couldn't have been more than 2 or 3 weeks apart going in.
Yeah, that was a little strange. But then, you know what? The head of all of that was a woman. So
yes,
I can't remember her name, but she was like, the admiral? I don't know what their rankings were.
I think she's a captain. I think she was Captain Deladier, if I remember correctly.
Right,
yeah,
but
I think so.
But you've got Diz and Rico going into the infantry. Diz is clearly the more qualified infantry soldier. She's got the military strategic mind. She obviously can kick ass. She got to, Clancy Brown. And, this girl is, she's super smart. She's like acing her tests. There's a big buzz that she's, this up and coming pilot. Yet, Dummy is the instructor in charge, whatever.
Yeah.
She's out plotting his maps right out of the gate. She's like, dude, you're taking us the long way around the world. And I've already outplotted you. She's making the strategic moves with the ship to keep it from crashing while he's like, oh my God, we're going to die. She's like, shut up. We're not going to die. It's fine. So I just kind of wished that, the higher ups that were making decisions were identifying these traits in these characters.
Yeah, I mean, again, like Michelle said, 97. Yes, it's misogyny, but at the same time, it was like people just didn't put women in movies like this. Like, really, at that point, the only time I can even think of that happening is, I don't know, what, Alien? Like that's the only time you're putting a woman. And as it is, you put Ripley in Alien, and nobody's frigging listening to her. Right. Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody listens to her through that entire movie. Yeah. And it's like, it's infuriating because if anybody took a half a second to listen to her when she said, I don't think we should bring him back on board.
Yeah.
the movie's over. They can roll credits and go home.
Yeah. 100%. We're going to see this. We're going to see this play out a couple more times in this movie, though, where we're going to see a dude just clueless and dropping balls, and then, women coming in and getting it done. So, I guess.
Even though it's misogynistic, it's underhandedly feministic.
Yes, so, it is. Okay. You took the words right out of my mouth. So, yes, sorry. Exactly. Okay. Yay, Verhoeven.
No, I think he did what he could, honestly. Like, he was really, like, he put a lot of, like, even in RoboCop, right? You look at Lewis.
Yeah. No, Lewis is a great character.
And so I think he really has that lens that he does want to have some of these women sort of take charge and be badass in their own right, So.
Legitimately, Lewis could have been a male character. Like, you could have cast a male in that character and it wouldn't have changed the character at all. And that's what it makes it a good character to me.
Yeah.
Because it's not about romance. It's not about being a woman and not being able to handle herself. She just is.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that.
It's funny you said that because it kind of brought me back to a scene we were just at where Rico gets angry at Diz for following him into the infantry.
Mm-hmm.
And, but it was fine that he was following, Carmen into the army.
Yes.
It's like, it's like, dude, you're doing the exact same thing. And honestly, I didn't think that this movie really needed the Diz to be so head over heels with Rico. I mean, it would work fine, but it didn't need it. I would have liked her character more if she wasn't so blindly in love with Rico.
Yeah.
I think they did all those things building up to her eventual.
Yeah.
We'll get there, right? I think that was part of the emotional arc of that. At least for Rico, not for her.
When we get to that point, I have the word, and I will utter the word that I consider that whole scene to be. But
there's a couple of payoffs on that, like Michelle's alluding to. There's a payoff that pays off with her, and then there's a payoff that doesn't pay off with him.
Yeah.
So it played two different ways for me, and that is kind of the reason why I didn't need the love interest there. But we'll get to it when we get to it.
We will. So at this point, Rico gets mail back from Carmen, and he's all excited, and people are looking over his shoulder to see his hot girlfriend, and she breaks up with him. Ba-dum-bum.
Oh, dear John, by the time you get this note, I will be gone.
Oh, my God. And I mean, like, I got to be honest with you. Underhanded, like, and I'm usually like on the woman's side, but it's like you should have just been straight up with him back on Earth and just
she was
before he no
she was.
I think so too.
She was. He's like, just say you love me, please. She's like, dude, I love you.
Before he ever signed the paperwork to join, she should have been like, just so you know, like, this is over between us. We can still be friends, but it's done. He followed her there.
She was flirting with the other guy right in front of him. It was over. Did you ever see the Happy Days when you were young and the Fonz would try and say love, but he couldn't? So there were episodes where he would try and slowly go, I love you. He just couldn't say it. So they had a whole episode where they tried to teach the fawns to say love. That was Denise Richards in that scene.
Footnote for everyone: go watch Happy Days.
Yes, go watch Happy Days. No bugs.
No bugs. Oh my God. I think it was a little underhanded. I think she should have been straight up with him before he ever signed his life away and joined the brute squad that's going to go out and get their heads handed to them. But
well, she saved his life at the end of the day.
Well, don't jump ahead.
Okay.
But you know what? You know what though? Say she did say, I don't love you, whatever. Do you honestly think, given his actions up until that point, that he wouldn't have signed up and tried to go there and be like, I can win her back or something?
Oh, absolutely. He totally would have been.
He was going.
On him.
Yeah, so he was going.
Yeah,
so
he's totally stalker Sam.
It wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
He only didn't get to stalk her fully because his grades were bad.
That's right. Oh yeah, he would have followed her right onto that starship, and she would have been like, "Dude." I think the only reason she didn't straight up just try and dump him was because she knew that they were going to get separated just naturally anyway. So she thought she was letting him down easy. And she
still wanted to be friends, right?
She did.
Still were friendly, right? But
yeah,
the kiss of death, but whatever. Friends.
I thought it was friends. I thought that was a humane dumping at the airport.
Yeah.
Okay.
At the airport.
Yeah, the video that she sends him where she breaks up with him? Mm-hmm. She actually shot that 2 weeks before prom.
With a planet backdrop.
Yeah, we're just green screen.
Okay.
Oh man. So here's a tough scene that we have to get through. There's a live fire drill. Rico and his squad are running it. One of the guys' helmets is malfunctioning. Rico's like, give me that helmet. Take it off your head. Let me fix it. And a stray bullet hits the guy right in the forehead, kills him right in front of Rico.
Hold on. Because did we skip where Rico gets to be drill sergeant?
Yeah, I must have then. Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. So I want to make this point here. So before this happens, Rico is going to get to be the squad leader. And throughout this movie, he's going to continually get promoted because somebody else gets killed. Or he's getting promoted by death. But they're going to give him the opportunity here to run the squad. And during the drill, they're playing capture the flag. And they're pinned down and they're going to lose. And this is before he becomes squad leader. And Diz comes up with the play that we're going to see. It's the same play she came up with to win the football game.
Yes.
And she says, remember in the game, 2 seconds left, blah, blah, blah. We ran this play. If we do it here, we can capture that flag. And, Rico does what a good soldier will do. He listened to the smarter plan. And they get the flag and he gets the job as squadron leader. And that job belonged to Diz. If he should have said, you know what, I don't deserve the credit for this. It was Diz. She came up with the plan. And I executed it. Yeah, but he doesn't, and he takes the credit and he gets the promotion above Diz.
And then ends insult to injury.
He does a shitty job, and he lets
not only that, but doesn't he ask Ace to help him out or something?
Well, this is later when he gets promoted again because another guy gets killed, and he's got to replace himself as squad leader. And yeah, this is jumping ahead, but I want to make the point now.
Yes.
He has the opportunity to give her the respect that she deserves and give her come up for what she did for him in basic training. And he offers it to Ace. And Ace has already failed once as squad leader, and he's frozen up in battle. And again, this is a time where I felt like, the character arcs could have really grown. You see Rico grow. He's finally going to give her, her come up, the respect she deserves. He's going to say, yeah, you're a strategic mind. You probably should have been squad leader then. I'm going to give it to you now. But no, he's like, hey, Ace, pal, you want to be squad leader? He's like, nah, I suck. I'm stupid. You're so dumb. You're running the whole squad now, and you still think I'm the guy for the job. As dumb as Ace is, he knows Rico's making the wrong choice, and he's like, "Why don't you?" He's like rolling his eyes over. Give it to this,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is Rico a misogynist, or is he just dumb?
He's dumb.
He's dumb.
He's dumb.
Yeah, that's what I
He
took
is
it
a blunt
as.
instrument. He is dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry to ramble on, but that scene really got to me. I'm like, what? I'm like, what? I'm like checking my notes. I'm like, what's going on here?
No, I mean, quite frankly, it's. I hate to say it's very much like real life, but it is. Many times women get passed over for a male counterpart simply because they're a woman. It happens.
Yeah. Well, what really bothered me though was that the writers, couldn't see this opportunity to, because like we did Jamie Lee Curtis last week in True Lies, and one of the things I really loved about it was watching the character arc, watching it grow and watching it become something else. Not only her character arc, but also the way the other characters in the movie saw and reacted to her. And
yes.
It was great writing and it was great character development. And this movie just didn't have that.
Right. And I mean, granted, we're also in a satire. Do you want to say it again?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Is this a satire though?
But as a satire, like you could still have done that. Like it doesn't have to
Well, no, if you're going to do that, then do it like a satire. Have Ace go, are you kidding me, dude? I already shit down my leg twice. This girl saved everybody's life 4 times. Why don't we give it to Diz?
Oh, but see, in satire, they don't point out what the problems are. They let the viewers see them.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think,
I don't have a clear idea of what satire is.
Is
it satire?
Well, you do keep asking if it's satire, so maybe you don't.
Is this satire?
I think he's just shoving it down your throat to make a point, right? Be like, and then eventually it bothers you, and then you think about it. And so I think in that sense, I think Verhoeven did a good job.
Okay, I see that.
Okay.
I see that.
So you're saying maybe this was meant to be seen like that?
Yes. I think given, what he's been trying to do with everything, he doesn't flat out, no one in there goes, oh, remember the uniforms from the Nazis back in the 1940s? You look a lot like them, right? They don't point it out.
True.
They just kind of let you go, don't like that. So,
okay.
Des was definitely like, yeah, don't like that.
Right.
That's bad. So
that's bad.
He did a great job in that sense, right? Because we don't know. I mean, I don't think that he spoke to that point specifically, but I know that he definitely has been in interviews and stuff has talked about a lot of these other things that were very intentional. So
right.
And he does write great women character. He's Total Recall.
Diz and Carmen are good characters.
They are.
They're treated poorly by the men around them.
Yes.
And it's the same as in Total Recall. Sharon Stone's character, my God, I mean, her husband has got her sleeping with freaking Arnold Schwarzenegger. And then, you've got the spy character. She's great. So, yeah, he writes really strong, great women, but he puts them in these horrible positions.
Yeah, and he directs them well, though. I mean, to the point of showing the heart and everything. I mean, that's him really directing them how to act and how to be, and it's pretty cool.
It really is. It really is. Okay, well, thanks for straightening me out on that one, Michelle.
I'm not straightening anybody out. I'm just
I love your I love your perspective, because this is why we do this, though, because now I'll look at it a little differently, and I'm appreciating the directing more in that scene. So good points.
So after this guy gets killed, Rico gets removed from squad leader duties. He's grilled by a senior officer who decides to give him administrative punishment, which is 10 lashes. And it's a tough scene to watch both the guy get shot in the head and then watch Rico taking the lashes as well. It's pretty intense.
Yeah, Clancy Brown says, here, put this in your mouth, and he hands him the leather strap. He goes, it helps. I would know. So he's been lashed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
so
good little insight in his character there.
Yeah, so he's saying to Rico, you made a mistake, but, I've made mistakes that have, wound me up right here, too, and look where I am. I'm breaking students' arms.
Yeah, and I wonder if he was constantly promoted because people died as well.
Probably.
You could be me soon, Rico. You could be me.
Absolutely. Oh, God.
Oh my God. So back in space, we see Barcelo and Carmen. They're connecting with one another when an asteroid nearly takes out the whole ship. And based on Carmen's quick thinking and good flying, they save the ship. And there's a little damage they couldn't avoid. They take out their communications. But that asteroid is heading back towards Earth. And I got to be honest with you, I got a chuckle out of the super rudimentary graphics that's on their screens. I'm like, they're out in space. And it's like, it looked like Pong.
Yeah, it did. Some of the scenes kind of brought me back to some of the Star Trek motion pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I was like, wow, 105 million, huh? I'm like, this kind of reminds me of Wrath of Khan. But, but it was fine. I loved it. It was fine.
So we got back to basic training, and Rico's packing to leave. Even after he's taken his lashes, he's like, I fucked up. I'm out of here. And Diz approaches him. She's trying to talk him out of leaving. And he's like, I've made up my mind. He calls his parents and asks them if he can come home, and they say yes. And the weird thing is as he's talking to his parents, the video call kind of cuts out. There's like atmospheric interference or something. So Rico's like, oh, that's weird. But they said it's okay to come home. I'm just going to leave. So he starts leaving the compound. And all hell starts breaking loose. People are yelling and screaming and running. So he follows them, and there's a gigantic news, like a video wall, and it's an asteroid, which was the asteroid that just almost took out Carmen's ship, has hit the Earth, and it destroys Buenos Aires. And it means the Federation is going to war with the Arachnids, and it also means that Rico's entire family and everyone that he's ever known are dead. And he reconsiders immediately and decides to stay and asks if he can stay. And Sergeant Sim rips up his resignation paperwork and he gets back to business.
Yeah, was Rico going home because the dream of Carmen was dead?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, like he was doing okay for a while there after she broke up with him, but then on top of it, he gets a dude killed. So
well, I thought
it was like a 1-2 punch.
Yeah, I felt like he was thinking if he could rank up and get to a high enough rank, maybe she'd take him seriously. And he was still kind of doing it all for the wrong reasons. And then when he realized, this isn't happening, she's not taking me back, and he got, and he had made the mistake and lost squadron leader, it was time for him to just, follow his heart back to mommy and daddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go to the beach.
Go to the beach.
Yeah. And it's it's also a turning point in the movie, right? Like, because you think like this takes us from this kind of kid and play time at the, like training and basic training and all that. And we're going to war at this point, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So at this point, we see another fake newscast. And let's see here.
This is where I wonder, like, it's an asteroid. Did the bugs like throw a freaking asteroid across the entire solar system?
Like, I don't know how they did it.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like, what's up with this? Did they use this opportunity, or was it really the bugs? That's kind of how I kept thinking. Well,
they say earlier, I think in one of those fake newscasts, that there is a asteroid belt around Klendathu, and that they have somehow figured out how to fling asteroids towards them.
Yes, that I saw. But like, really, did that really? I don't know. Again,
I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So you're saying, could this be a false flag?
Yeah, could this be like, hey, we're gonna make a fake attack, so now everybody's mad, and we're gonna, and why Buenos Aires specifically? Like, did the bugs know exactly? Like, I don't know, right? Really weird.
Yeah.
Well, like, here's the thing: if it didn't come from them, how did the United States? Yeah, how did the Earth fling it towards themselves? Like, where did it come from if it didn't come from the bugs?
Oh, I'm saying it wasn't like a thing of opportunity. I didn't.
Oh, like a natural disaster.
Yeah, like, okay, this is happening. Let's let it happen because, I mean, it's the future. They obviously could have stopped it. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking.
What if it wasn't a meteor at all? What if it was a nuke?
Yeah, exactly. Could have been anything.
I mean, did they have the camera set up in space?
Because you had it almost hit that ship that Carmen was on. It's the same. It's the same asteroid.
Yeah, on its path going through to direct hit Buenos Aires, which is weird, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. know.
Oh, things that make you say,
Yeah, it didn't matter ultimately because now the whole point was now we're going to war, right?
Yep.
Like you said, Time for war.
Time for
Yeah.
war. So we're back in the fake newscasts, and we're seeing the devastation in Buenos Aires. You see Carl again, and this time he's already a full-fledged scientist. He's in his Nazi uniform and looking spiffy.
Yeah.
Yeah, ready for an Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Where's those crystal skulls at? All right. Go on.
So he suggests if you have to shoot an arachnid, you got to shoot it in the brainstem to immobilize it completely, which, you know, I'm hoping that most people on Earth were hoping that wasn't going to come down to that. But, you know, you never know. Also, we see children gleefully stomping on roaches to do their part for the war effort. So
Yeah.
it seems like maybe killing bugs on the Earth isn't going to help anything except maybe messing up our ecosystem. But, you know.
And, you know, they're wearing silver Doc Martens, so it's definitely 1997.
That's funny.
It's so true. So now we see a reporter on the Ticonderoga, which is a space station that's in the arachnid quarantine zone. And the military is making their arrangements to take the fight to Klendathu, the home planet of the bugs. He's asking people as they go by questions. He queries as to whether it's humans' aggression that started this mess to begin with, and the bugs are simply fighting back. And Johnny sees the reporter and stops, saying that he's from Buenos Aires and he's going to kill them all. So yeah, he gives him a real good, we're going to kick some ass. So then Carmen sees him because she's also on the Ticonderoga. She calls out to him, and they share a moment talking about Buenos Aires before Xander shows up, and Rico realizes that she broke up with him, and now she's pretty cozy with Xander. And of course, that's going to rub him the wrong way. You can't really blame the dude for being annoyed.
Yeah.
They get into a fist fight before it gets broken up. Then Rico, Kitten, Ace, and Dizzy get tattoos before getting deployed. So, Michelle, there's a lot to unpack here. The confrontation between Rico and Xander is chief among them. Do you think Rico should just let it go at this point? Just the dream is dead and let it go?
You know, like, that's like a rational person. And we already know that would have been the wrong thing. Like, if he had said let it go, I would have called bullshit on that.
Yep.
Because his character would not have let it go.
Agreed.
So, and then, well, you know, the rank has no bearing on this fight, you know. So Xander and him go, I throw my rank out. We're just going to start, you know.
By the way, Casper Van Dien actually did punch him in the mouth. That you know, the bloody lip, he actually punched him in the mouth.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, well, they were trying to make it look real. And so
they did. It was good.
We've seen this play in tons of movies too. I mean, Stripes, you know, Bill Murray and the drill sergeant. I'm taking off my cap. I am now no longer the drill sergeant. And we'll see it again in An Officer and a Gentleman. And I liked it. It played real nice for me.
Yeah.
And you know, these guys are high school quote, rivals. It goes deeper than just, you know, Denise Richards, I'm going to call her. You know, they've played against each other in ball, and you know, Rico's gotten the best of them over and over again. And now in the real world, you know, Xander is the top dog, and you know, he's not taking Rico shit.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, and they got to throw down because, you know, my manliness is at stake here. So, you know, and there's everybody's watching. That's
and
thing,
this scene also reminds me of a scene in Pacific Rim. You guys remember that one?
Of course.
I love Pacific Rim.
Yeah. So very similar scene to that.
They all got to be like, hey, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's the testosterone overload.
Yeah. In every like military type movie, that's got to happen.
Yeah. So now our dropships are loaded and the infantry is on its way down. And there's these kind of weird blue lights shooting up from the planet, and they're big. And the intelligence says it's just plasma lights, it's harmless. And that's proven false when ships begin to explode when they get hit. Carmen is able to avoid an initial collision, but while in the midst of invasive maneuvers, the ship's bridge gets hit. So, Des, this seems like a bit of poor planning on the government. Like, it's like their intelligence wasn't so intelligent here.
Correct. And, you know, this is going to be another thing that I've been talking about through the entire movie. We're going to get another scene after this where, you know, the old white guy who's been, you know, calling the shots has to step down and relinquish his power to a black woman who has been probably telling him the whole time, hey, dummy, you got it all wrong, you know? And, you know, she's going to lay out the plan that's going to ultimately, you know, secure victory for the world. So once again, we're seeing these dumb old white guys making bad decisions.
It kind of makes me think of right now, but you know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So there we are. Once again, it's like I wrote in my notes, men are stupid in this world if they just listen to the women more.
Well, this world.
Oh, God.
Oh, my Lord. So the infantry hits the ground running. They take out 2 big bugs, and they're quickly faced with an overwhelming wave of very angry bugs. And we're taken right back to the beginning of the movie where we saw the cameraman get taken out and the reporter get taken out. And unfortunately, Kitten gets killed viciously. And Rico takes a very serious stab in the thigh from one of the bugs. He's trying to fight the bugs off as they're advancing on him. And you see the maw of one of them close in on him and the screen fades. So, like, Michelle, this is the first time you see just how unprepared the humans really were to do this.
Yeah, and the fun thing is then we get to learn that blue stuff coming is like bug farts.
Yeah.
I was like explosive bug farts.
God.
But yeah, so
Really is though.
Is that satire?
yeah, is that satire? Yes. Yeah. But like this was good because you have that oh shit moment. And you see the swarms and swarms of them. And by the way, this planet is a total shithole.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's nothing good on this planet, and we're here fighting.
Just a bunch of bugs.
Like, is there oil in there? That's all I kept thinking.
Why do we even want to be here?
Yeah, and it was like a desert. I'm like, are we trying to... So, whatever. But yeah, like, I mean... really impressive shots of all those bugs. Like that's the one thing that they didn't look fake at all. Like I thought
it looked good.
Looked awesome.
I agree totally. What were the weapons of mass destruction?
Yeah, that's right. We're looking for those.
Like I gotta be honest with you, like if it was me, I would have not just nuked the entire planet from outer space.
Okay, yeah. So there's going to be a scene that comes up a little bit later where they're showing the bombers coming over and dropping bombs, and they wipe out like 1 million bugs, like lickety split. And I'm thinking,
we just do that from word one.
Yeah, why are we dropping people, troops down here? They're getting like massacred. These guns, it takes 500. Yeah, it takes 500 rounds to take down a freaking bug. And
it's because the men are in charge.
And I realized in this scene where Rico, you see the flashlight and you just assume Rico is dead. I realized that I'd maybe only seen this movie one time all the way through. Mm-hmm. And if that, because I thought he was dead. And I realized I don't know what's going to happen next in this movie. So, yeah, this was almost a first watching for me. I mean, I had seen the movie before, but I definitely had not watched it all the way through with any sort of attention span.
So did you appreciate it more now this time? Where you're like, or
we'll get to that.
Okay. That's later the score. But gosh. So fascinating. But like, so when you talked about them wiping them all out, like the second time, like, would you maybe just chalk that up to, well, they didn't know that was going to be the case, and then they're like, oh yeah, a bunch of dudes got decimated, so let's bring in the heavy artillery now.
But it's like at the same time, it's like, why would you drop a bunch of squishy, soft humans in this unknown planet, not having any idea how many, bad guys you're facing, how many bugs you're facing, and just hope for the best? Like,
well, basic
like for dudes that have like psychic people working for them, it seems kind of dumb.
It doesn't take a psychic. I mean, basic military strategy is you send in the planes first. They cluster bomb the area. They thin out the enemy, and then you send the troops in to secure the land. I mean, they were doing it completely opposite the whole time until we finally get that scene where they get it right. Yeah. Maybe that's when the woman started taking over.
I think
the planning of these attacks.
Oh my goodness. So at this point, the human race is limping away from Klendathu. There was 100,000 dead in just an hour.
Whoa.
Carmen's ship barely survived the attack. They're returning to the Ticonderoga, and the devastation to the fleet is very apparent as they're coming up to the Ticonderoga. Almost every ship is like in pieces. Like parts of them are missing. Everything is battle scarred, and it's an ugly scene. Mm-hmm. Wounded line the hallways. It was full of people like rabble rousing and saying, we're going to kill them all. And now it's full of people missing limbs, And the death toll soars over 300,000. Carmen thinks Rico's dead because his name is on the list of dead and killed in action. But he's actually in a Luke Skywalker tank getting recovered. So
yes, Empire Strikes Back, 100%. I was surprised to see him. I honestly thought he was dead.
I mean, it looked like he was going to be dead.
I said to myself, I can't believe Rico's going to die this early in the movie. I checked the timer. I'm like, wow, we got about 45 minutes left and Rico's gone. And then there he was after being attacked by the Hoth monster.
So it takes a few days, but Rico gets patched back up and he gets sent to a new squad along with Ace and Diz. The new leader is somebody we've seen before. It's Mr. Radchek.
Yay! Rad.
Yeah, and it turns out he's the one that saved Rico back on Clendathu. So
Nice.
I thought that was interesting. So their new job is to mop up after the airstrikes you were just talking about. So they do an airstrike and then they're going to go in and kill bugs left over and they're going to nuke the holes because those airstrikes aren't getting down into the holes in the ground. And here, when they're down there doing this job, we see a new bug that sprays a flammable liquid from its head. Rico uses a grenade to blow it up, and it makes him the new corporal because, unfortunately, the corporal is dead. And this is when he finally promotes Dizzy to squad leader after he attempts to promote Ace first. So,
yeah, right when he offered it to Ace, I feel like General One Arm, whatever his name is,
Mr. Radchek.
Mr. Radchek should have been like, all right, you're not the right guy, Rico. Diz, you're the new thing, and Rico, you're squad leader again. But yeah, so go ahead.
I mean, it's good that the humans enjoy a little bit more success with this run through because it was looking pretty ugly.
So let me ask you, was the change of power, because remember we get that scene where like I said, the old white guy gets
it
demoted.
was right after that. Right, that whole thing when you're seeing him get, fixed up, the white guy steps down and the new lady steps in.
Okay, so now this new military planning is coming from a different
head.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So the war is starting to go in a better direction now.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So the squad gets treated to a night of fun for their success. They're drinking, they're dancing, they're playing games. Despite initially denying Diz, Rico decides to dance with her. And then there's a little bit more action back in his bunk.
Yeah, this is out of Apocalypse Now, where the helicopter squad leader, I love my boys, and he gets them the beer and he gets them the steaks, and it's almost a perfect scene from Apocalypse.
Yeah, it's almost like a perfect parallel.
Yes. Callback for sure.
Yep. Radchek interrupts Diz and Rico, tells them that they've got orders to move out. The squad is going to be going to a base that's been decimated. They find a body that's had its brain sucked out of it, and the surviving general, who has seen some shit and he's definitely losing it a little bit, says they have a way of getting into your head and making you do things. So I found that this to be a little creepy. And it was also disturbing to see how the bugs came right up in the middle of a base. You've got a base that has metal floors and those bugs are coming right up through it. So you're not safe anywhere.
Right. So Michelle, let me ask you a question about the tent scene with Rico and Diz.
Okay.
I feel like the relationship between those two is almost the exact relationship that Rico had with Carmen. She's in love. She wants to say, Rico, just say you love me once. Just try it on for size. She never actually says it, but this is where I had trouble a little bit with the payoff. It felt like he never really cared about her the way she cared about him. So I kind of had trouble with the. We'll get to it a little later where there is a very touching moment, but I'm only feeling the emotion from her side of the character interaction. What did you think?
He literally will just kind of brush her off until Radchek's like, dude, don't overlook a good thing just because you're looking at something else. And so he needed his teacher to tell him, get with it, dude.
But even when he gets,
actually tell him that, did he actually tell him to get?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, he looks at him at one point because Diz is trying to get Rico to dance with her and he won't. And she gets one of the other guys to dance with her and she's dancing. And Radchek comes over and says to Rico, son, you really shouldn't, like
he says, "Let me give
like,
you some advice. Never turn down a good thing."
Thank you. That's what he says.
Yeah, all right. Okay.
So he needs somebody to tell him that.
I zoned out during that part. I think maybe I was distracted by the green shiny violin.
I think you were. I think you were having an Ace fangirl moment.
Yeah, but I mean that scene, like, she always gets consolation prizes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what poor Diz gets through in this whole thing.
Yes.
And it was pretty funny that he's like, "Oh well, make it 20 minutes."
Yeah, I laughed.
20 minutes. Yeah, that was a great.
I laughed, dude.
They're gonna ask us to feel a certain way 2 times coming up, and I felt like the interaction between the characters when it counted, it wasn't there on Rico's side. So during those 2 scenes, I was feeling the way they wanted me to feel, but maybe not the way they were trying to make me feel. So if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree.
It was still sad. It was like, I think, the audience wouldn't be dumb enough to be like, "Oh, he's all of a sudden on board with this." But
like, I don't think he's in love with Diz, but I think he's like, you know what, I'm going to give this a try.
Yeah, and they're friends, and okay,
He loves her like a friend, and she loves him like a potential,
like a partner,
everything. And it's the same dynamic we got with him and Carmen. Same exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So this outpost gets attacked by a huge wave of bugs, like it's an overwhelming wave of bugs. They're calling for extraction, and unfortunately this extraction just comes too late to save Radchek or our good friend Diz.
Yeah.
Both Carmen and Xander show up, and they are able to save as many people as they can, but Radchek gets pulled down into a hole, and Diz gets stabbed in the back, which, I mean, like, that's kind of like the story of her life. So
that's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, it's true, right? And then, like we've been alluding to this emotional scene where Diz is dying and talking to Rico, and you're expected to feel really bad about it. And I feel bad for Diz. I don't feel bad for Rico, even though they are 100% fridging Diz here. Like,
I felt the opposite. So I felt a lot of emotion here, but I didn't feel emotion because Rico was losing Diz, or even that Diz was dying. I was feeling that, finally she's had her sex with him, whatever, and she's dying in his arms, and she's saying, "Don't let me go." And it touched me, but it touched me because I felt like, she was where she wanted to be, where she died, in Rico's arms, and they had finally consummated this friendship, to the next level. And seeing it through Rico's eyes, I didn't feel like he was half as emotional as she was. So it was a great performance by that actor. And it, in a movie full of satire, I really was feeling it there. It touched me.
Is this satire?
That's gonna be the name of this episode. I agree there. It was just like, you could see her fulfillment, but it was bittersweet because you were like, "Oh man, it really isn't the fulfillment she thinks she's getting," but she's gonna take what she's gonna get at this point.
He was
she's dying,
relieved.
she doesn't have a choice.
Yeah.
He was relieved. I felt like he was like, "Whoa, I don't have to do that Dear John video now."
I know.
Poor Diz. She deserved better.
Yeah,
they had no future.
Mm-hmm.
So I found it a little odd here. They have a little funeral for Diz, and it's like, with all the people dying out there, she's getting the Spock treatment. Like, it was a little odd. She's getting this full dress funeral. People are dressed up and attending, and they're sending her out in the casket. And I mean, it was nice. I felt like she deserved it, but it's like, legitimately, Radchek, who was like a well-respected, like, I mean, granted, he had no body to bring back because it went down a hole, but like, all these people, I feel like in this, where if you come back to the ship with a dead body at this point, they're probably just throwing them into the furnace. Like, I'm not trying to be mean about it, but it's like, you're not having full dress funerals for Diz.
And with the character building, going back to it again. So in this scene, I felt nothing because I was getting all the emotion off of Diz and how much she loved Rico. But now Rico's saying goodbye, and there's absolutely no emotion. He's saying, she was a friend. She was a bud. No, you just banged her in the freaking tent. Okay. So there's no, little run of tear down his eye. Nothing. There's no emotion. He's fine shooting her into space, like Dylan said, like Spock on her journey to Genesis, where she'll get a second chance.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord. So Rico's now a lieutenant. They've reinforced the Roughnecks with a bunch of kids. And yes,
can I
go
say
ahead.
something?
I know you want to say something.
Yes. So here, this is what a squadron of high school kids looks like.
Yep. I was gonna say this earlier, but I was like, let me wait because that's later.
Okay, I'm sorry. I jumped in there and stole
No, same.
So yeah, and it was almost like you think Verhoeven had to be doing that as, dare I say, satire.
Could have been. And plus, I don't even know who they would have cast that looked like a high school kid at that point.
As soon as this episode ends, I'm going to go on and be like, Google, what is satire?
Yeah.
Oh my Lord. So they've reinforced the Roughnecks with a bunch of kids. And so the ships are in space again. They're above Clendathu. And the ships are like trying to evade the blue lights again. And I just feel like they didn't really learn their lesson here.
Yeah.
Like,
dumb.
when the blue lights start coming up, you got to get the fuck out of there. And they're all like, we're going to just kind of roll. And of course, the ship that Carmen and Xander are on gets sheared in two. You're watching bodies flying out of it's like, what?
Because they're aiming for the blue lights.
I just don't understand. You saw it literally destroy ships in front of your face, and you're going to fly in there, and when the blue lights start coming up, you're going to hang out? Like, that made no sense to me whatsoever.
Caca.
It was caca.
So wait, real quick, is this, do we already know at this point? Because at the funeral,
yes, I jumped over that. Please
Doogie
go ahead.
comes back, right?
Yes, Doogie Howser comes back.
And he tells them a little bit about that mission, and basically it was a setup.
Yeah.
Because
he said we knew
flush out this bug, or
the brain bug.
Michelle, I'm glad you brought that up, because at this moment I felt like they were trying to say that Doogie Howser was a bad guy, but I never took it that way. Mobile infantry was there to do what they were there to do, and in that instance, they were there to be bait. And he knew that the only way to conquer this species was to get the brain bug. And he said, I'm going to do what I have to do to get that brain bug. We're going to sacrifice a few for the greater of all.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
now they're going back there at this point now to get the brain bug.
Yes, now they're going looking for the brain bug. That's what they're down there looking for.
Yep.
So this is actually kind of a cool, even though like I'm saying to myself, these people are fucking stupid because I can't believe they're just sitting there letting the blue lights come up at them again. But they're letting the bug farts, the silent but deadlies hit them again.
Yeah, super deadly.
Yes. So the ship gets sheared in two. The captain gets sheared in two. There's a lot of things getting cut in half here.
Yeah.
And they're forced to abandon ship. So Carmen and Xander narrowly escape the exploding ship. They land on the planet. Rico's already down on the planet looking for the brain bug. He's down there with Ace and the young kids. And, they narrowly escape the explosion, but they end up underground, like what's the word I'm looking for? Like the escape pod. Yeah, it goes underground, and they're surrounded by bugs down there. So
then once again, she expertly pilots when he is like, I can't do it. She's like, shut up, put your seatbelt on. I'll fly us down there. I can do it.
Belt on.
The ship, the little escape pod next to them, like goes off the track, and she just punches it and makes it through.
She slaps him in the face. Get a hold of yourself.
Oh my God. So they end up surrounded by bugs, and she is on the radio, can help, we need help, blah, blah, blah. Rico hears this and knows it's her, and he wants to go looking for her. So they start looking, but as soon as that happens, she gets cut off, and everyone's like, dude, she's dead. She was surrounded by bugs. It was her and Xander with like a toothpick, and he's like, I'm going to try to rescue them anyways. But everyone's like, no, you can't. So they decide to stay on target and keep looking for the brain bug.
Well, first he wants to take the whole squad down there. And they're like, dude, no. It's freaking retired. They would have followed him. But yeah, and so he finally makes the right choice.
He makes the right choice. But as they're going down into the ground, he stops and he's looking down and he's like, Carmen's down there. And at this point in the movie, you don't know how he knows this, but he's like, Carmen's down there and she's alive and I'm going. And you guys just keep on, keep on mission. Go looking for the brain bug. And, Ace is like, dude, I'm going to go with you because it's you, but I feel like this is stupid. And another one of their guys goes with them. I don't know if I wrote his name down. Oh, Watkins.
The stalking radar that he has goes off. He knows that she's stalked her.
Oh, shit.
Because, they don't say how he knows. And why is he getting this feeling when they don't really have that big of a connection?
Right. Well, they do explain it later.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Doogie Howser. Doogie Howser is leading him there.
Right. He made the connection.
He tells them that she's down there and she's still alive.
Even though Doogie couldn't make him see the 6 of diamonds when they were like touching hands in his bedroom, he is now able to psychically plant the idea in his head.
Well, you have to think that Doogie's had some time to train up and get stronger himself.
Oh yeah, he's doing the Vulcan mind melt at the end of this thing. Right. So yeah.
So Rico and Watkins and Ace are making their way down, and in the meantime, this giant slug-like creature, the vagina bug, comes along, and he sucks out Xander's brains, and it's gross. He put a giant spike right into his head and just sucks out his brains. And
so man is going to destroy species of giant vaginas on planet Vagina. Okay.
Oh, it's an even bigger metaphor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Satire strikes again.
Oh, shit.
That's not satire. I don't
With their giant penis guns.
Oh my Lord.
Oh,
so I mean, this is a creature design. It's pretty gross, and they purposely show that it's valued for its smarts and not its ability to fight, because it's this little squishy thing that doesn't really have any way to defend itself whatsoever.
I actually feel bad for him, to be honest.
I did too.
They're kind of pathetic.
Yeah. And he comes in. Oh, sorry. I'm going.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say when he finally gets down there and he's like flashing that bomb in front of the poor Bug's face.
Yeah,
it's like,
Bug's like, I don't want to get blown up,
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, poor Bug.
I mean, it's still a brutal bug. I mean, he sucked out Xander's brains, and Xander's face looked like it was imploding. So I mean,
was like, at this point, I was starting to feel more for the bugs.
Michelle, absolutely. They don't do a good job of setting the bugs up as the bad guys in this movie ever.
No.
It's like it's always the
humans,
aggressors. Always, and they seemed like they seemed nice. I liked them.
Yeah, the vagina bug was cute.
I love the vagina bug. This giant vagina that like sucks a man's will out of his head.
Oh my God!
Sucks his will to think for himself. You can't think for yourself now because the vagina bug is in your head. Okay.
Oh my God.
I mean, that tracks, I guess, though, right?
Sucking the life out of Xander.
Oh my God. So Carmen watches as Xander's killed. Now, before he gets killed, he hands her a knife to try to help protect herself. But it's like, she's got a knife in a bug fight. So
she brought a knife to a vagina fight. Is that satire?
So when it becomes her turn to get her brain sucked out of her head, she uses the knife and cuts the giant spike off of the vagina bug, and of course the vagina bug is very distressed by this turn of events. Poor guy. And the bugs advance on her, but suddenly there's Rico behind her, and he's got a nuke, and they all know what it is. So they rescue Carmen. They grab her and they're taking her out. And unfortunately, Watkins, who's played by Seth Gillum, who is later seen in The Walking Dead, because I knew I recognized him, and I couldn't figure out where from, and he's from The Walking Dead.
Cool.
He gets injured, and he says, "Give me that nuke, and you guys get out of here," because he knows that he's on his way out. And You know, that's kind of been Radcheck's thing. Like if you're gonna die, you help out before you die, kind of a thing. You know, you fight until the end.
We've seen this in a million movies too. Yeah.
You know, I gotta be honest with you. I feel like it was a little bit unbelievable that they'd survived the explosion, but for the sake of the story, I'll allow it. But that's a pretty big explosion. It's a nuclear bomb.
Yeah, it's 3,000 degree, wind is going to be blowing up that tunnel, melting them. And Carmen has suffered a fatal wound with that spike through her chest. Yeah. Fatal wound. She's bled out by now in the real world.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's a very thick
that's what she said.
Yeah. It's a big appendage that she gets stabbed with. So
it's a very thick appendage.
Okay. You infant.
That was satire. Read the room. Read the room. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it just so happens that the rocks fall right as they get through it, and it seemed a little unbelievable that they'd survive that explosion.
I was fine with it. It was fun.
Again, for the sake of the story, you got to allow it.
Sure.
So they emerge back into the sunlight, and soldiers are celebrating, and you're wondering what's going on. The brain bug's been captured, and as it turns out, our friend, the drill sergeant Zim, busted himself down to private so he could go fight, and he's the one that captured the bug.
Did he bust himself down to private, or did he screw up again and get demoted to private?
No, he says that the guy had told him, you're going to have to bust yourself down to private if you want to go fight. So that's what he did.
Okay,
yeah.
I gotcha. Cool.
Yep. Yeah, and Carl reappears. He's using his psych ability to talk to the vagina bug, and he says the bug is scared, and everyone's like, yay!
Oh, poor bug. Scared.
Poor bug.
And you know what? Here's a funny thing too. Like, he can control higher life forms at this point. I was a little suspect that all he got was the bug was afraid. It looked like the bug was telling him shit.
Yeah.
You know?
You could have been.
And all he did was say he was afraid. Like,
yeah.
I bet he knows more, right? So then that planted that, he probably knows more. And then, I feel bad for that poor
guy.
Bug.
Michelle, when he says he does the Vulcan mind melt, he puts the hand on it, he's absorbing. We're all waiting. I'm like, oh yeah, what's he gonna say?
Yeah.
It says it's afraid. Yeah, and everyone cheers. I'm like, that's it?
Yeah.
His whole mission was it's afraid?
Yeah, he totally even paused at that. So it makes you like, what's he really gonna say to the higher ups later?
Yeah.
Because everybody was there.
Yeah.
Is he going to tell the secrets to the entire mobile infantry? No.
Yeah. And this is real life. This is how government treats us in real life.
Exactly. So it's like, no.
Yeah.
So, but poor bug captured now.
Yeah. So at this point, we get treated to another FedNet fake broadcast. And this is going to wrap up the movie. They've taken poor little vagina bug and they're probing it and getting into it. Yeah, you feel bad for it.
It was bad. I was like, no.
Yeah. Jamming things into it. Fuck that.
It's awful. It's a war crime.
I hate it.
Yeah, me too.
I hate the human race.
Yeah.
Disgusting, violent creatures. I gotta be honest
with you. It doesn't paint us in a good light.
It paints us in the exact light we should be painted in.
No, true enough. Carmen, though, becomes a captain of her own ship. So that's a nice little sidebar. And Rico's leading his squad. And they're still fighting the good fight out there in space. And that's how the movie ends.
Yeah, Rico has no identity of his own. He has just become Sergeant Radcliffe. He just parodies and regurgitates all of his great lines. It's like, come on, kid, get yourself a freaking personality.
Yeah, and I mean, that is probably the commentary on the military.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? These people are just, cogs in a wheel type situation.
Yep.
But yeah, poor brain bug. Didn't like that ending.
No. Me neither.
So, I mean, it leaves you with, no hope.
Yeah.
The movie
and kind of an icky feeling.
Yeah, so, the movie ends in a shit moment.
Michelle, did you see any of the other Starship Troopers?
I did not, and I didn't think I should because I've heard that they're all pretty bad.
I did not either. I've never seen another one. So yeah, I don't know how this turns out.
In 2016, they supposedly were going to remake this movie. and it went nowhere because the guy that was going to do it was like, I'm going to be faithful to the book. Well, the book is like uber fascist, and that just kind of died out, and it just didn't go anywhere.
Yeah,
probably for the best, honestly.
This movie was fine all on its own. I don't even think it needed a bunch of sequels, but I haven't seen one, so who am I to say? Maybe they're great.
Yeah, I don't know, and I'm not sure if Casper Van Dien is in the sequels. I think he is.
Yeah,
he might be in one or two of them, but I don't think he's in all of them.
Yeah, because there's like 4 or some crap. There's like a lot.
I think so.
There are a lot, and I do believe that he is in the second one because I was looking at the poster for it. I'm like, oh, dude's back.
And you gotta wonder, like, what story is there gonna be? Because it was really thin to begin with.
Yeah, that was my question. If you had seen it, my question was, does it continue in this universe and continue on this story? I didn't know.
Yeah, no. I was like, I don't know if I want to put myself through that.
I think the answer is, who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
I also, we often talk about different people that might have been cast in the movie, and there wasn't a bunch of people that were listed for this, but one of the people that was that turned down the role of Johnny Rico was Mark Wahlberg.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I heard that.
I wonder what that would have been. I can't see. I honestly can't see that.
It would have
Yeah,
been weird.
It's funny. I think that if Wahlberg had taken that leading role, this movie wouldn't have been as much satire as it was. No, seriously, I think that if Wahlberg had been the lead in this, I think that it would have been a more serious space, action movie.
Either that or Mark Wahlberg's career would have done the same thing that Casper Van Dien's did, which is nothing.
True. Maybe.
That could have happened too.
I mean, I don't know if Casper Van Dien's that great of an actor.
No, he's not. No,
he's pretty much all good looks.
Yeah, Wahlberg would have been way, way stronger in this role. I mean, he's just a way better actor. So, in my opinion,
I don't know, right? What would Paul Verhoeven have done with him? I don't know.
Yeah, it would have been a different movie. I don't think it would have been as good.
Yeah,
would have been different. It wouldn't
Isn't
have been
this the height of his Marky Mark time?
I think this would have been around
around the time he was starting
doing
to
Fear.
when he did Fear. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Which he was great in. That movie is really good. I mean, Wahlberg's great. I hate to say it because he's such a cheeseball, but he really is a very good actor. I mean, you see him in the Daddy's Home movies. He's great in a comedic role. You see him in, Fear. He's great in the Psycho role. He's good in everything he does, I think.
His burgers are not good, though.
I don't eat beef, so I don't know, but
I think they have chicken there as well. But
I have had the turkey burger, and okay.
So I also wanted to say that the movie Starship Troopers actually has some famous fans, people who have said that they like it, and it's Martin Scorsese, Joel Cohen, Ethan Cohen, and Oliver Stone, as well as former president of the United States, Bill Clinton. They all say they love this movie, so I thought that was interesting.
I love Bill Clinton. When Bill Clinton was president, the country was so nice.
Yeah, we didn't have any problems.
No, everything was nice. There was saxophone playing and
saxophone. Yeah,
it was nice. I don't know about his politics, but
yeah.
But,
I mean, politics aside, he was just playing saxophone on the Tonight Show or whatever, and it was just kind of.
I got a shirt somewhere that says "Bill is chill."
Really great. That's great.
I made that up. All right, let's do our rewatch scores.
All right, Michelle, why don't you go first?
4.5.
Oh,
straight to the point with a 4.5 rewatch.
Yeah, I think the 0.5 came off for bug abuse.
4.5 for bug abuse. All right. I am going to give this movie, I'm going to give it a higher score than actually how many times I would rewatch it, because I don't know if I would go back and watch this movie again. And not because it's not a rewatchable movie, but just it's not really my genre of film. And I do love sci-fi, but this was weird sci-fi. It was, it was the bugs, Michelle. I felt bad for him, and
Yeah.
I wanted to demonize the bad guy more, and I just couldn't do it with this. So I wasn't rooting for the army. I was rooting for the bugs.
Yep.
So I'm gonna give this movie teetering between 3.5 and 4 rewatches. I'm gonna give it 4 rewatches. It's a cool movie.
Yeah, the movie itself is good.
It's a cool movie. Great characters.
Yes, I would agree with that. I'm going to say, based on the acting done, and when you really do consider that it's satire and the different things that the writers and the director are trying to get across to you, it becomes a better movie than at first blush. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a 4 rewatch as well.
Okay, so we've got 4, a 4, and what was it, a 4.25?
4.5.
4.5, yeah.
4.5. So with Dylan's 4, my 4, Michelle's 4.5 on the Dez's sliding scale of rewatches, which we all know has absolutely no science to it whatsoever. This movie is going to be 4.25 rewatches, which makes this a great movie. So if you have not seen this movie, what are you waiting for? Go see it. It's a great movie. And to end this episode, I would like Michelle to explain to me and to our listeners, what is satire?
Well, everybody, the dictionary definition of satire is the use of humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule to expose and criticize people's stupidity or vices.
Awesome.
Particularly in politics and topical issues. So this was spot on a satire, because it even like exaggerated their like ridiculousness, so we felt for the bugs more. Hello.
Yeah.
You know?
And I felt a little satire in your explanation of satire.
The humor, the irony, or my exaggeration?
All of the above.
The ridicule.
Awesome. All right, guys. So that was an awesome podcast, Michelle. It's always awesome having you on. I think you're in my top 3 favorite co-hosts.
Thanks.
All right. So I want to thank you. I want to thank Lynn. Like always, it's great, doing these podcasts with you guys. And as always, I want to thank the listeners for stopping by and supporting the show. And we will be back next week with the podcaster with a degree in terror, Tony, where we will be breaking down and discussing the movie Trick or Treat. And this is actually the older movie with Sammy Kerr and the amazing soundtrack given to us by Fastway. So if you love heavy metal and you love Halloween, come back and join us next week and find out our thoughts on Trick or Treat.